Wherever I go, wherever I go, with me I carry this blood-stained earth, the silent soul of snow-clad hills, the tearful waves of the river Juari. Wherever I go, with me I carry the anger of the forest of Sattari, the deep axe cuts on the bodies of gods and goddesses. Without your love, away from your life, O Goa, I know not how to live. Wherever I go, I carry with me the fire of revolt. The sun has given its gold to the moon. The moon has turned it into silver. The sun has obstructed the moonlight. Moon turned pale, hides behind the mountain.
Very few Konkani poets have gained and earned the respect of readers of Konkani poetry. Dr. Manoharrai Sardessai is one such shining star that appeared on the horizon of Konkani literature. Dr. Manoharrai Sardessai was born with literary trends and traditions which he was fortunate to inherit from his great father, the late Professor Lakshman Rao Sardesai. Professor Lakshman Rao Sardesai was a prolific short story writer, and his eldest son, Dr. Manoharrai, also became in his father's footsteps a prolific poet. Dr. Manoharrai's poetry not only explored his poetic genre, but equally wove beautiful intelligentsia and poetic dreams which he sees even now at his late age of 80. The poetry of Dr. Manoharrai spread and flourished with the tremendous natural beauty of Goa. It blossomed just like the buds and flowers on every branch of the mango tree. Dr. Manoharrai's inspiration was not limited only to nature. He gave us poetry of high social values, where the feelings of a common man were viewed through his measured words. His poems not only pleased and entertained the Konkanis, but he woke and provoked the Konkanis to rise up and save their distinct identity, culture and language. His poems like Zayat Zage, Shetkarano Munkarano, Zayat Zage.
Shetkarano Munkarano Jankarano Gavkarano Zayat Zage Gavkarano Zayat Zage पुढाराचे गडे तुम्ही सदा वच्च पुढे आयले लारा कितली तरी माणसुकेचे ताणचे वडे सगळी जीण आपली मनात सगळी जीण आपली मनात विसरून गा मजे तुझे जायात जागे गावकारानो जायात जागे
Manoharrai's greatness as a poet lies in the fact that there are several strings to his poetic bow. He has written poems about nature, of course social realism, then love and so many other themes.
Uske mathar gonde safo hasta vasal hase teng sevoile piklen tor म्हणून तानयेक लागलें पिशें. The birds are all flutter on seeing the red pitcoli berries, the ganji seeds, applying the black spot on the red faces, come out well adorned. Bunches of flowers on husky bushes. Now it is spring in Goa. Away from you, my heart in exile pines for you. O Goa.
In fact, Goa lives in every line that Manoharrai writes. His poetry is a vibrant reflection of the cultural and political events that shaped this land right from Parshuram, the Portuguese tyranny, the freedom struggle launched by Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia, the historic opinion poll, the visit of Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia and Jawaharlal Nehru, the recognition to Konkani by the Sahitya Akademi, amongst other things. Manoharrai rightly says, wherever I go, I carry with me this blood-stained earth, the silent sob of smoke-clad hills, the tearful waves of the river Zuari.
Dr. Manoharrai Sardessai is a pioneer poet in the field of Konkani literature.
It's my observation that for the last 5 decades or so, you have been consistently writing poetry, intimately involved with Goa. What is the reason for this intimacy that has been so strong?
For certain things, there are no reasons. And for love, there is no reason at all. I love Goa. I love poetry. I like to paint with words and also to play with words.
That you do.
Yeah.
Tell us, what kind of authors from the different languages influenced you?
Well, the first influences were Marathi, then Portuguese, Camões, Júlio Diniz, Guerra Junqueiro, and many other poets influenced me, as well as Spanish writers, Don Quixote, and then of course English poets like Shakespeare, of course, Robert Browning, and Hopkins, Byron, Shelley, the whole lot, William Wordsworth, and the French ones, all the classic poets, Racine, Corneille, and then the romantic poets, Lamartine, Victor Hugo, Alfred de Musset, and of course the modern poets. In the initial stages, it was influenced by Marathi poets, Bharat Tambe, Girish, Ananta Kanekar, and Prahlad Keshav Atre a bit. And of course, Sant Jnaneshwar, Sant Tukaram. It's difficult to define the influences which you have followed. It's like taking all kinds of food and they turn into your blood, your own blood. And it's difficult to say which part of that food is in which part of your blood.
Manohar, I'm curious about a thing. Your father was a very illustrious writer, a great critic and an academician,
Yeah.
and a very powerful personality. How was it possible for you to grow out of his shadow?
I was never in his shadow. I followed my own way. Whatever influence has been exercised on me, I chose it willingly.
Manohar, your Pisoli, the Konkani anthology, won the Sahitya Akademi award.
Yeah.
Pisoli is known for its brevity, precision and melodious ideas. Do you recollect any poem which you would like to share with us at the moment?
Fulak sangle fulunaka, fulan sangle olonaka. I told the flower not to bloom. The flower told me not to talk. Danikachi murdi kitak paleta. Tanchi thirdim palyat. Why do you look at the corpses of the rich? See their tombs. Tuka सुकणी जाय, घरांत पानरो दवरूं नाका, पोरसांत झाडां लाय. Do you want birds? Don't keep a cage in your house. Rather, plant trees in your orchard.
The poetry of Dr. Manoharrai Sardessai is attracting the younger generation too. Popular Indian singers like Shankar Mahadevan and Shan have picked the Konkani poetic lines of Manoharrai for a new video album. Manoharrai has also written songs for a few Konkani films like Jeevit Amche Oshe. Dr. Manoharrai Sardessai was born in 1925 in Panaji, Goa. He did his primary schooling in his native village and then proceeded to Mumbai for higher education. Finally, he left India for Paris in France to obtain his doctorate in French literature. But he made life flourish only through his Konkani poetry. Pisolim, a collection of his poems, were honored by the Sahitya Akademi by awarding him the prestigious Sahitya Akademi Puraskar in the year 1980.
Dr. Manoharrai Sardessai, when he became a people's poet, there was no newspaper. But of course today we can't take his position, but we can definitely adopt his model and reach out to the people. We, Sunaprant, also publish a small 3 or 4 line poetry of his in the name of Tikli. This Tikli has become so popular. It is nothing less than, R.K. Lakshman's cartoons. I am not saying that, or I can never claim that we are reaching out Manoharrai Sardessai to the people through Sunaprant. I would say that Sunaprant has become popular today because of Manoharrai Sardesai's Tikli. That is his greatness.
He wrote small poems to entertain his younger sister. He then started writing in Marathi. He wrote small stories and poems in Marathi. After studying at the local primary schools in Marathi and Portuguese, he left his village, Savoy Verem, and came to Margao to continue his further education in English. Here, he came in contact with the renowned Marathi poet, the late B.B. Borkar. He lived with him for some time, and this helped him to develop his poetry writing skills. It was Dr. Manoharrai Sardessai who revolutionized Konkani poetry in theme, tone and technique. He belongs to the band of those hot-blooded youths who fought for the liberation of Goa and for the development of Konkani language and literature. He also played a significant role in giving Konkani its rightful place in the mosaic of Indian languages. His activities, worth and achievements are vast and inspiring. Besides poetry, Dr. Manoharrai has also made a rich contribution to other forms of literature, including short stories, plays and essays. He has authored a number of books, a majority of which are collections of his lucid poetry.
Manoharrai Sardessai is the poet laureate of Konkani poetry. He also wrote few but good short stories in Marathi too. His poetry has great ease and freedom. It has also rhythm of living speech. His poetry can be classified into 4 groups: nostalgic, haiku type, children's song and social one.
He has to his credit several translations of universal literature into French, English and Portuguese. He edited the very first edition of the Konkani World Encyclopedia in 1991. He has received several awards along with the highest prestigious Sahitya Akademi Award for his book Pisolim.
Dr. Manoharrai Sardessai is a very sensitive poet. He has contributed richly to the pre- and post-liberated Goa.
After post-graduation in 1952, he was offered a scholarship by the French government to write a doctoral thesis. He went to Paris for his PhD. He wrote a thesis on Image of India in France at Sorbonne University and obtained his PhD. During his stay in France, he studied sociology and international relations of German and Spanish languages.
Manoharrai,
Yeah.
you have handled almost all forms of literature,
Yes.
say essays,
Well.
short stories,
Yeah.
dramas,
Uh-huh.
dictionaries,
Uh-huh.
encyclopedias.
Yeah.
But your admirers
Uh-huh.
always like to
Yeah.
call you as a poet.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
There is no doubt that you are a great poet in Konkani.
Oh yeah.
But do you
Thank
think
you.
sometimes that your admirers have made injustice to you, I mean to your other works, anytime you feel that way, or you are happy
Yeah.
with their recognition? What is your opinion about this?
Well, I have handled many forms, but rather than my handling them, they have handled me. But really, I started as a short story writer.
I know.
My father was a short story writer, and I follow his tradition of being short. I write short poems. The first song I wrote was in Konkani, but the first prose piece was in Marathi. And I had studied one class, and this is my grandfather's place, that is mother's father, Benjim. So my father had once brought me here exactly on this place. It's very strange, we are meeting again after
So many years.
more than 80 years. As a boy I had come here, and I was playing with crabs. And I wrote a short story on crabs. I described the crabs, and I said that one crab, mother crab, tells her little daughter crab, "Oh, you silly girl, can't you walk straight? Why do you walk in a crooked way? Can't you walk straight like me?" You know, the mother crab also was walking the crooked way. A poet is made of dreams. And I wrote about the first dream, the dream of Goa as a free country. I was in Paris. Goa was very far away, and the thought that the Portuguese were still there haunted me. And I wrote in Konkani.
What made you to engage so vigorously in that freedom movement at that time?
Well, there are two freedom movements. There's the Goa freedom movement and there's the Konkani freedom movement.
Correct.
You are talking about which movement?
Both. I would say, because your poetry covers both movements.
Now my father had taken part in freedom movement in a very active way. He was imprisoned. You can see Aguada jail from here. He was engaged, he was imprisoned there. I went to Bombay. I worked and also studied. And so we tacitly, there was a division of labor, that he should fight for the freedom of movement of Goa and I should feed the family. And there, in Bombay, I took part in freedom movement, not as a freedom fighter, as a freedom writer.
Writer. Any impact so much you can, I mean, remember any incidents as such that your poetry or your song has made so much
No,
impact?
impact on others I can't say, but I can tell you about such incidents. And it was Lohiya Maidan,
Madgaon.
Margaon, and the field or the ground was full of people, and they came to listen to my poem or song on opinion call. I love Paul, I love Paul. And they clapped me so much, though I knew that some people were against the Konkani movement. I spoke, I put my whole heart in what I talked, and people came and embraced me and said, till now we were Marathi Wadis, we have heard your talk, we have become Konkani Wadis.
Do you advise any writer to participate in active politics?
I remember a word by Napoleon, the great French emperor, that in this age, politics is our destiny. You can't escape politics. It's like air, you know. We are in politics. We have to breathe politics. I can't say I can't drink this. Our water is politicized. So writer cannot dissociate himself with politics. If there are bad politicians, good people should enter politics, they will be good politicians.
He worked as a member of the Sahitya Akademi representing Konkani language. Dr. Manoharrai also worked as the vice chairman of the newly formed Goa Konkani Academy. He was also the professor of French language and the head of the French language department at the Goa University.
I have known Dr. Sardessai for many years, first as his student, his colleague, and finally as a friend. All this began in 1983 when I joined the postgraduate center in Panjim to do my MA in French. Monsieur.
Bonjour Belinda, Linda.
Merci.
Vous venez de tousser.
Oui, oui, je
Vous
suis
avez
enrhumée.
une toux?
Oui.
Bon,
Oui.
alors je vais vous raconter une histoire là-dessus.
Oui, je suis sûre qu'elle
Il y
sera très
avait-
intéressante.
Il y avait un général.
Oui. And I'm so lucky to have had him as my teacher, and I could clearly say today that he is my guru.
Dr. Manoharrai Sardessai is the poet of the people. He is equally the poet of poetry. And poetry for him is a search on this sandy desert of paper.
A vida cumulou-me de tudo. A vida cumulou-me de tudo, sem nada pedir. Deu-me a cabana, deu-me o fogão. O moth, this bright flame will turn you to ashes all right, but my night will be full of light. The living don't have a broken bed to rest their head, but they have built Taj Mahal for the dead.
Padpiano, khadpiano, chirpiano, these all colloquial words of Goans I have never heard in any other languages, which I was hearing from my neighbors. That same words I used to hear from Dr. Manoharrai Sardessai's poems, and after that, Dr. Manoharrai Sardessai became a Manoharbab to us.
Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia said, "It is rare to see father and son excelling in the same occupation. But when such a thing happens, it calls for a celebration." Lakshman Rao Sardesai is undoubtedly one of the best short story writers we have, and his son Manoharrai is gifted with the lyrical quality of which good poetry is made.
This is my father, rather the statue of my father. But he himself would have never liked to remain in a statue, to remain in the form of a stone. A writer doesn't live in stones. A writer lives in his words.
Manoharrai Sardessai, my father, has always been a mother figure to me.
Manoharbab, I am very fortunate to be born to this wonderful man who is a loving father, an excellent poet and a good writer.
I share a close relationship with my father. Sometimes I see in him the innocence of a child. Sometimes I see in him the wisdom of a philosopher. Besides that, what stands out is his simplicity. He is a very simple man.
Baba is a father to all of us, but honestly, Baba is the real child amongst all of us.
Goikarano Jaya Jage means wake up Goans and save Goa. I was inspired by these words, and these words were written by none than Dr. Manoharrai Sardesai.
The peace and tranquility, natural beauty and abundant sand sea, green fields and high hills inspired this Konkani genius, who could be rightly called a poet of freedom and a poet of Goan identity. His poetry has developed everything that is in Goa, and that is in every Goan man and woman. The impact of his Konkani poetry on Indian literature will remain intact for years to come in a niche of Indian literary history.
सैमाचे वांगडी तुम्ही मनशाचे इष्ट तुम्ही जिते जीवे तरणे तुम्ही उमेदीचे तुम्ही उजे जेन्ना आवयन मारलो उलो तेन्ना तुम्ही रावले उबे जेन्ना तुम्ही रावले उबे तुमचे आंगार आसात अजून लिकलिकीत झुजा कुणो गोंयच्या म्हज्या गोंयकारांनो गोंयच्या म्हज्या गोंयकारांनो गोंयच्या म्हज्या गोंयकारांनो गोंयच्या म्हज्या गोंयकारांनो